So today we launched Juno, the no-code creative coding engine. I just want to kind of riff on this video and show you what can be built in Juno and what is creative coding and how does it unlock this world of living, dynamic, generative art. I mean, under the hood, creative coding encompasses things like P5.js, Three.js, and Juno is a trained LLM specifically specialized for creative coding. So let's just jump right in here. We've got our dashboard here. We can see recipes that other creators have published, things that you can remix to build on top of, or you can start from scratch, create your own. But let's see what kind of stuff is possible in Juno. So I'm going to show you some of the existing works in progress, recipes, and examples of things that I've built in Juno from scratch. You can do things like games where you put your own unique twist on a classic arcade game. So in this case, we have Pong that rotates with added color and dynamic background, hue shifting. We've done things like generative tiles where I asked Juno to script up a generative art piece that just uses squares and various toned down hues. And every time I refresh the piece, it's different. So that is a very simple example of generative art. We've done some pieces. I have this one that's called dynamic pigments, which is a really cool concept I came up with where I give it an image, it takes that image and creates a particle for each pixel. And then those particles are allowed to kind of roam around. So this isn't actually built of pixels anymore. It's built of particles roaming, and it gives this piece kind of a weird texture and a weird life. What if you wanted to make a piece of artwork that actually tells the time? That's what this is here. We can tell here, for me, it is 1:57. And then this is our second, and wherever I move my mouse, it kind of shifts the hue from blue to red. So we've got time-based pieces. This is a really cool particle effect that feels like the event horizon where I have this infinitely thin line and then I'm generating pixels or particles from that accelerate upwards and fade in, and it creates this really crazy effect. And I can actually place my mouse in areas to act as like an obstruction for this waterfall, whether it's inverted or falling down on my mouse. What if I wanted to take a PNG and use that PNG to mask the movement or the boundaries that certain code-based visuals can move in this case, simple white particles, but look at this, they're forming the Juno logo because I gave Juno a PNG and I said, let's confine the particles to that PNG. And if I click on it, the particles are now allowed to wander. And so they disperse. But if I click again, they slowly start to get transported back within the confines of the PNG mask. A simple crossfade between multiple images here. We have a painting of a sunflower, but as I move my mouse across, we can see it evolve and bloom into the full flower. I've got a piece here that takes one of my pendulum paintings, and the longer you look at it, the more it dissolves and breaks down. So you can see here, as we watch this piece, the particles in the piece start to break apart. And the only way to restore this piece would be to refresh the page or refresh the artwork. If you go to the heyjuno.app website, you'll notice an interactive portal to learn about what is living art. Well, guess what? That interactive slideshow itself was built in Juno. So the slideshow that talks about what interactive artwork is itself an interactive artwork. And you can see here I have a grid that follows my mouse and warps. The letters on that grid even get displaced as I move my mouse around. As I click, I can send these pulses out. What about this fun twist on a click toggle? So instead of just clicking between two images, if I click this image, it explodes into hundreds of pixels to reveal the night version of that image beneath. If I click again, boom, that one explodes, goes back to the daylight. You can rebuild classic games like Brick Breaker, create truly generative glitch effects that are never the same. So this randomly glitches the image between two images, and as I move my mouse up the image, it increases that glitch effect. If I move my mouse or finger down on the image, it completely removes that glitch effect. I like to call that infinite glitch. What about taking these crazy pixels that kind of move around and then add music to the actual piece so it reacts to the music?
You must first call in love to receive it. I'm a magnet, attracted. Feel the love coming to me, I have it.
What about a really cool interactive wallpaper that you want to put on your website? Well, you can build that in here too. And then I could export any of these pieces that you've seen as a single HTML file that could then be embedded on your website, could be embedded on your portfolio, could be minted to any smart contract that supports HTML, which as far as I know is every creator contract that we have in the ecosystem. Definitely transient contracts. What about diving into the 3D space? We have a piece here built by our very own Daniel And this is a flower built of particles that are moving subtly. And not only that, but Daniel added controls so I can control the turbulence of the particles. I can control the speed that the particles move. We have generative art pieces that are truly generative artworks. This is a piece I built in Juno inspired by tree rings. And the way that it's seated is you type in any phrase. So if we wanted to type in art rules, that's the piece that is associated with art rules. What about a P5.js piece that reacts to your mouse and kind of shows you the course of a day, all built with code and shapes? How about this piece built up of multiple layers of PNGs that actually watch what I'm doing and follow my mouse? Or a tool to alter the effect or visual appearance of an image. So in this case, we have a dithering tool where I can upload an image. And now I can apply multiple different dithering algorithms like Atkinson, order dithering, Lloyd Steinberg, or just basic dithering. This all built in Juno. So as you can see here, the possibilities are nearly infinite. It really just comes down to a limitation of your imagination and your ability to describe your ideas. Think of Juno as your own personal creative developer sitting right next to you. Your responsibility is to create, to envision, to dream, to imagine, explain those ideas, and Juno does the rest. All sorts of living artworks, generative artworks, dynamic art concepts can be built. And for those of you who are more technical, you'll notice there's a code tab where you can see everything Juno has written, and you can get in here and change any of the code that you want just like you would in a code editor. If I just want to generate 5 blocks, I could change this number here and I'll only generate 5 squares on this canvas now. So this caters to the technical, to the completely non-technical, all of this stuff built into one interface. You can share your works, whether you're downloading in the HTML, you can take snapshots of your canvas, you can record small screen recordings of your canvas to share on social media, and then you can even publish your recipes where you're sharing this with the Juno community. Creators can share what they're building in Juno, even with the optionality to allow others to remix your recipe, to build on top of it, subtract from it. So I would say that's all, but there's so much that I didn't cover in here and so many possibilities that I even myself have not explored. So I cannot wait to see you guys in here, start experimenting. Dynamic and living art really deepens the experience in the artistic expression that you can reach with your artwork. It's a whole nother world, another dimension that has now been unlocked to everybody. Take care.